Side cannons! Okay, folks, how you doing? I have got my tea to my left. I have got my phone on my right. In the center, I have got my little GM screen here made of Iron Sworn rules taped to cardboard. Hey, folks, how are you? Are you as ready as I am? If you're not, you got to get there. You and I, we got to be there together. Hey, folks. Welcome to the sidecar. Welcome to Side Cannons. This is the tabletop RPG wing of Sidecar Stories, wherein we are on another adventure. We're on another little adventure here in the realms of Recitus. An exciting time as always, but very exciting today because this place that we spent some time building together, this place that we developed, this place that we, you know, those of us who have been in the know for a while, those of you who enjoy the planning sessions and all that, you knew we were headed here. Yeah, technically we arrived last session, but this is going to be the session wherein we explore. We get a chance to really check the place out, and I don't know about y'all, but I am super excited. Now, I know some things about this place because I knew I wanted to have this sort of laid out a little bit. I knew I wanted to have a foundation to build from. But at the same time, you know, I don't know precisely what we're going to find down every hallway. When we meet people, yes, I've got plans for who they are, but I don't have plans for how they're going to feel about us. So today, we're going to explore new places. We're going to find new nooks and crannies. We are going to get to know the castle and the people inside it. We're going to get to know some people, and we're going to walk away from today with probably some new friends. Fingers crossed. Maybe some new enemies. It could happen. As of last week, what things did you sort of see and you were like, you know what, I want to take another look at that? Or things where you're like, oh, I hope there's some of this at Castle Vesperale. Anything along those lines. Deathrave, excited about the teachers. Y'all might have heard me take a sort of sipping noise there, but I did not actually take a sip because it was so hot just being close to it that I got scared and I didn't. It didn't take a sip. I don't want to burn my tongue. I really enjoy this tea, and I don't want to burn my tongue on the way in and not get to enjoy the rest of it. All right. Everyone, thank you very much for joining me today. I hope you will enjoy as we launch into this very exploratory episode of Night School at Vesperale Academy. Welcome, everyone, to Castle Vesperale. The Castle Vesperale, as it was introduced to you, has very little charm. Like a charred old carcass picked clean, the skeletal castle puts the whole forest at unease. Now that you're on the inside, it's a dizzying knot of corridors and staircases, like a nest of snakes. Stairs are treacherous and may lead nowhere. Corridors are rarely flat, and some are so slanted they deliver you to another floor without warning. All in all, the least disorienting view of the place was from the outside, from the drawbridge leading across the river. It presented two halves to the castle. To the east, a once dignified keep, while the west is a cluster of wide, bloated buildings that look like they've been tacked on a bit later. Although the new students entered the castle through a tower in this western section, the whole western half of the castle is considered advanced studies and is generally off limits to new students. It is connected to the eastern half via Bailey's Tower, the one with the murder hole. The eastern half is roughly square. surrounding a wide courtyard, and each side of the courtyard has its own name and designation. The southern side is the front of the castle, the keep, with the main hall below and crowned up top by the belfry. How the crumbling tower of the belfry still supports those massive bells, and for how long they will continue, you don't know. Across the courtyard opposite the keep is the postern. The inner windows look down over a courtyard, and the outer windows look out over a crumbling arena. To the east is the east wing, to the west is the west wing. The west wing is where it connects to the advanced studies, and the east wing is sort of off by itself. Now, if you're watching live, you can see this map here, and if you would like to find it, you can go ahead and head to the Discord. Linktree/Sidecar Stories, linktr.ee/Sidecar Stories. That is the link to follow for all accoutrements related to this, and also the link to share around. If you're watching this live, you can go ahead and use the lore command to bring up the link for the lore that will include this map very soon, but also it currently includes the character sheets for our 2 characters. Now, those of us who have been here for a little while will know our characters pretty well already. I am, of course, playing Illyria, who is not doing too well today. We have had quite the night. And until just recently, the 2 of us were running, screaming through these corridors, trying to avoid the terrors that we found herein. After making our way into the Great Hall, we found ourselves greeted by students. It turns out this is indeed a school after all, simply one that handles things a little differently. Now here in the Great Hall, we are looking around, looking at one another, wondering what to do next. Over the course of this day, there are tours after a fashion that bring us around to these various places in the castle. We get broad strokes. Some of the professors are milling about. They are called beaks, it would seem, based on how some of the existing students refer to them. The beaks are various and strange. One made a serious impression already. The Bone Man. Turns out his name is Orif Barsarand, and he sort of takes it upon himself as somewhat of a lieutenant of the Headmistress to make some introductions. Standing up at the head of this great hall here, he says to everyone gathered here, as the Headmistress steps back a moment and goes off to have a short discussion with the 2 visitors. These are the visitors to town that Illyria spotted on their way in, an elvish woman and a human man, both with white tattoos, to match the white tattoos of the Headmistress herself. But the Headmistress and these visitors, they actually leave together, as the visitors seem to have some urgency in their arrival. Meanwhile, the Bone Man, who introduces himself, as I said, as Orif Barsarand, he has got the top hat and tuxedo, sort of with the tails that we saw before. A large but also lanky figure, with long, awkward limbs, but every bit of detail on his clothing, from sort of the piping on his jacket to the hand up on the front of his top hat, is stitched into his into his outfit of actual bones. They are actual small bones and tiny little bits of skeleton stitched onto his clothing. Igor and Illyria are surrounded by these other new students. There is a ghost girl, a boy that we ran into on our way in, with a gold armband and golden-ish eyes, among others. other students start to sort of crowd toward us, and we see an array of individuals, but as Orif talks, we start to see that there are some unifying factors here. We see many folks who we would sort of call normal, except that they have sharper eyes than one would consider usual, or perhaps they sort of lead with their nose and get in a few whiffs before they seem to pay any attention with their eyes. Some of them have especially sharp ears, it would seem. These are things that Igor, as a very observant individual, might take notice of, but Illyria, not being typically so observant, has sort of come to understand for some reason. They aren't really sure why they know this, but they get this sense. That makes up maybe a third of the students. Another third are a little on the paler side. They tend to avoid the pools of light coming in through the windows, although when they do pass them, they sort of take a little sigh of relief, and Igor may know why. These windows don't seem to be normal, or at the very least the sunlight coming in is not. This sunlight has been... It makes it tougher for Igor, as a ghost, to maintain that connection to the material world. And yet, this sunlight here, you can almost feel its warmth once more, but it does not give you that uncomfortable feeling from before. Based on where you are, what you've seen from some of the staff, you surmise that these students, these uncomfortable pale few, may indeed be vampires. And then there are the most visually obvious, the ghosts. Semi-transparent, some of them fading at the edges, some of them faded entirely except for certain characteristics of themselves. Simply a pair of hands in one case, simply a head bobbing about in another. Meanwhile, Orif, having gone over some of the locations here in the castle, just the rough layout of things, is now finishing up. And in a moment, I'm going to be asking Igor and Illyria, what do we want to do? Where do we want to go first? Or who do we want to look for? And you can put that as like, yeah, a specific person or just a type of person you want to go and find. Because there is a huge population gathered here in this great hall. Orif stands up at the head, having watched the headmistress go off into another room, another corridor with the visitors. And of course, I believe I made a bit of impression on some of you on your way in. It's, I'm not going to say it's not fun, but it is part of the introduction to the place. You know, Headmistress always knows how to say it a bit more pretty than I would, but the world is difficult for you out there. Some of you notice already. Some of you are just going to find that out very soon, but it's unfriendly to us. Alright, so whatever impression I made on your way in, I hope that I can make two impressions. One, someone who's going to be honest with you, like I was before. I am going to get you. One way or another, I'm going to get you. But, second, someone who can teach you not to get got by no one else. I pride myself on being, you might say, a bit more devious than the world meant for me to be. But I can teach you to be devious too. Let's you and I learn to survive this thing and, like she said, make your mark. Now, I've told you roughly how to find your way around. We're going to be moving you together into some groups based on what we learned about you on your way in. That was an important step, you know. It's good to know what you're afraid of, and the things that you're afraid of is exactly what we were assessing. We'll learn more about that later. For now, I don't know, meet one another. Say hi, little ghosts and ghoulies. Let's go.
And he does his sort of awkward, lanky
dance, which I would say is not substantially less creepy now that you know he's a professor and you know his name. It's still just his body moves in terrible ways, and his vampire teeth have sort of made an impression. What do we want to do first here? Igor is interested in finding out the ghost girl's name and to find a ghost teacher. Interesting. Well, you find two things, Igor. Let us first make some rolls to find out how well you do. Igor, you are going to do some looking around and try to find Ghost Girl and find out Ghost Girl's name. With your, I think this seems to me like a heart move, and you you look around. You can see the ghost girl is here nearby, starting to catch her ghastly breath after the events of the day. You start to approach. It doesn't seem like many of the new students know each other. It seems like Illyria and Igor may be the only pair that came here together. We see, I think, all sorts of different students, all sorts of different outfits, backgrounds. I think the unifying factor among the new ones is that lots of them seem like they have probably traveled some distance. Many of them have torn or ragged clothing. And I think, Igor, you noticed that the ghost girl, as you approach, she is just sort of looking around. You can see that she is wearing... you might call it somewhere between clothes and a costume. The way that she is dressed is fairly ornate, not as though she is wealthy, but more as though she enjoys color. You see, it sort of seems like a half step between normal day clothes, perhaps more tuned to Tower's life, halfway between that and like the outfit of a carnival. It is an odd little outfit.
Hello.
Igor speaks to the ghost girl.
I'm Igor, my friend Illyria, and I saw that you were running from the professor. We tried to help you. Are you doing all right?
Oh, yeah? I'm okay now. Hey, did you know what you were getting into when you showed up here? Oh, I'm sorry. Kind of rude of me. My name is Pinelli.
I'm gonna pop that into chat for you real quick. Pinelli. Like Penelope, almost, but no, Pinelli is the ghost girl.
My name's Pinelli. And I gotta admit, you seem like the only other new ghost around here. How long have you been? I've been like this for a bit, but I was not expecting to see others like me, I guess. I got collected a couple of weeks ago, and I've been traveling out here from the towers ever since.
It's sort of exciting, isn't it?
Well, I suppose, yeah. It's more exciting now that I'm out of the clutches of that weird bone man. I think he called himself Orif. I don't know if I'm ever going to get used to him. He seems, well, he calls himself devious, and I'm going to choose to believe him because it's pretty easy to believe. Where are you from, anyway? Some of your clothes, I don't know, it's hard to tell, but it seems like you might come from somewhere a little closer to the towers.
What do you mean you were collected?
Oh, well, I'm not really from here, and, well, I don't remember much for a little while, but I was apparently causing some kind of trouble. They explained it to me while I was traveling here. There's some danger, I guess, for people like us. We can kind of forget ourselves. Were you not collected? Did you just stumble in here? I was forgetting myself, I guess, and someone came and found me and brought me all the way out here.
I am from close to the towers myself. A gate town to the south.
Oh, you're from the towers. All right. Well, then this territory is going to be unfamiliar to both of us. We might have to do some exploring before I feel too comfortable here.
Let me do a real quick roll here. So you've got the name here, but do you want to try to forge a bond? I think this seems like a reasonable spot to forge a bond. Igor says,
I was traveling through the towns here when it happened.
When it happened, when you died. So you died close to here. Well, what took you away from the towers? What brings you out here into the frontier? I mean, it's not too far, but did your family move out here?
I'm here for some work.
For some work.
and I think it's a little cagey. I think, Igor, you are not feeling great about the reasons that you're out here already, perhaps. I think you are going to need to kind of make a positive impression. She doesn't know you. She knows enough to be suspicious. It seems that, she has sort of like had a good enough read on you. We'll call this an iron vow. We'll call this an easy one. What is it? Just a troublesome vow. And this is going to be make a good impression on Pinelli. Igor says,
You see that person over there? They came with me from what I would call a hard life. We met, we became good friends, and we vowed to work together to better ourselves.
Meanwhile, I think you look back at Illyria and they are kind of swaying on their feet, looking exhausted, looking absolutely terrible. And then they just sort of like stumble forward and land on the ground. Illyria is not in good shape. Wounded, trying to recover, but, was bit by wolves like yesterday and then passed out on the forest floor in a in the snow for hours before being sort of terrified, and now finds himself here. So, Illyria is going to fully pass out and is sort of laying on the ground here. Igor runs over to them. And Illyria seems to be doing not terribly, but just absolutely exhausted. We see off in the shadows, there are still that group of people that we met first, that Igor met in that cabin, and they watch. The orc woman sort of like starts forward, but the man with the tooth-studded hat, sort of like a wide leather thing, not a top hat like Orif, he stops her from coming forward. But there is a decent bit of attention on us anyway, and another approaches from that podium up at the top. This is a dwarf man with a what are they called? A mohawk. Good grief. A mohawk and a beard sort of like trimmed down in front such that it's almost a continuous stripe interrupted only by the face. And this dwarf says, "All right, clear out of the way. Okay. Hey, come on now." And smacks Illyria in the face a little bit. They sort of open an eye, and this dwarf starts to move the bandage to the side to check out the wounded shoulder. He nods. He has got a pair of tusks reminiscent to those of an orc, but doesn't appear to be an orc, and says, "Okay, all right. Yeah, so this is going to be a tough night for you, I think. Let's get them somewhere comfortable, huh?" You see him wave over a couple of other students here, You can see a big, very pale, with kind of like really pale red hair. This boy comes over to help, and they sort of help Illyria, who is half stumbling, half walking, and Igor goes with them. I think they bring the two of us through the halls of this castle, and as we are progressing, we can see that there are some similarities between some different places here in the castle. It seems like the Great Hall is maybe one of the better upkept spots, but even there, the dilapidation was apparent. The corridors here are all permeated by a persistent draft, which, now that a winter storm has set in, has become almost windy even on the inside. And the people here are bundling up into coats and furs. There are holes in masonry, holes in the roofs that let in all sorts of wind, but also occasionally there are rooms that just have snow falling directly into them from above. We cross the courtyard and head to some of the towers on the eastern wing. And that is where we find ourselves, in a little cot that seems to be in a room full of beds that have either been sort of cobbled together or kind of, it seems, assembled from different places. None of them match. They're all mismatched and thrown into corners wherever they may lay, but it's comfortable. The mattress is well stuffed with hay, and it's got a blanket on it, which is, frankly, much more than we could ask for over the past few months. Illyria gets some rest. For a few hours here, it is a very I'm just sweating and trying to stay conscious, occasionally failing pretty dramatically at that endeavor. And Igor, you're sort of here by my side, which I appreciate greatly. As you sort of rest here, I don't know if you sort of sit in a chair beside Illyria, but the two of us are here together. We finally have a chance to rest, and it's quiet for a little while until some of the other students start to sort of filter in. We can see that there are quite a few others here. Some of them seem to already have a bed nearby. Some of them seem to just sort of claim one and look around, wondering if someone else is going to come along for it. We see a boy approaches. He has got sort of a shock of blonde hair and a very upright attitude to him. He is quiet, but not in the sort of trying to avoid attention sort of way, but simply looking down his nose at people nearby. We also see someone rolls in on a wheelchair and claims a bed here, and has a big, thick, leather-bound book that, I mean, surprising that someone our age can read for the most part, but not only that, they open it up and they are writing in it. And we see Ghost Girl sort of proceed down the hallway. The two of us here, we rest for a while, and as the day proceeds, the sun begins to go down outside, and it seems that this is when the castle really kind of comes to life, which, based on the people who are here, starts to make sense. This seems to be the rhythm of the castle, and I think the first person who comes and finds us here is going to be a ghost. A ghost passes by through the castle, and she greets you, Igor. This is just, I think, right as Illyria is starting to wake up, but this ghost comes by. This is a rather young ghost, and introduces herself. This is Terua, and Terua is a researcher here.
Hello, it's very nice to meet you. I am Terua, and I would just like to welcome you to the castle. I am from the Advanced Studies wing of the castle, and I'm curious to know what it is you are hoping to learn while you're here.
I should inform you, you're going to have quite a few options, certainly more than you would have anywhere else in the realms. It's a process of learning to be all right, certainly. You as a ghost, you're going to, especially at meal times while the others go away, you're going to find yourself not particularly hungry. And while you do so, you are going to actually see me. I'll be leading some of the sessions myself. We're going to have some sessions to help you get accustomed to your new form. Based on what I've heard from the other staff, you are very recently a ghost, yes? You didn't spend much time as one before? You're going to be learning some things about what it is to be a ghost, but we have got quite a bit of additional education available. It's a difficult world for us out there, and as such, there are those, like the wonderful Headmistress, who have dedicated themselves to giving us greater opportunities. Opportunities we wouldn't have elsewhere, and hopefully ones that will help us to make our way in this world. My name is, as I said, Terua, and I would ask you, please, let me know if I can help you with anything.
Illyria starts to wake up here as Terua starts to wander off. Illyria says to Igor,
Well, I still feel terrible, but not quite as terrible. Where are we? What's this room? I remember being chased. I remember... Oh, there was a speech, and... This really is some sort of strange school, isn't it? All right. I take it these are some of our classmates. This is going to be different for us, isn't it? I was just starting to get used to Dawngreed, and now here we are, which we should talk. I don't know if... It didn't feel like we wandered too far from Dawngreed. This castle is somewhere close to it. Certainly, we can see Dawngreed from here, I think, if we got high enough, but if those wild stallions come back, what sort of progress have we made? This certainly seems like a new bit of news for us.
Illyria has taken on this sort of conspiratorial tone, and I think we can add some things to this sort of like case the joint sort of move. And I'll leave it up to y'all if you want to go ahead and, fully mark this complete, but I should say not mark it complete, but you're at 6 out of 10, and basically you're going to roll 2d10 and hope that a 6 is enough for a strong hit. Or we can continue to try to learn things about the town, and you can try to make the move later on. I'll say a 6 isn't like a super safe territory, and we've got time, so we'll try that later on. Igor says,
We both have a lot to learn about ourselves. I don't know if you realize there's something going on within you.
I can feel something, certainly, but what do you mean? How would you know this? I barely understand it myself. I'm trying to. I think it feels like a stomachache. I'm nauseous, and then when I think I'm going to throw up, my headache takes over, and then I can't concentrate, and then just when I feel like screaming, my stomach begins to hurt again. It washes back and forth. I don't know. I think I need to talk to someone here. Those people that we met from that cabin, they seem to have some idea of what this could possibly be about, and I think I have to find out.
I am going to make that a vow for myself. Find out about my condition. I'm going to call this one, I'm going to call it an easy one. We're just getting into the hang of things here. I think Illyria feels good enough to start moving around again. Their health is much better than it was before, substantially better. Your spirits are super high. My health is super high. My spirits are not great, but I think between this, we have got some exploration that we can do. I think starting to wander out here, we start to take a look at this eastern wing of the castle. There is a wide courtyard down below us, and we can see quite a few people here who are sort of like they seem to be regulars. They seem to be students who have been here for a while. They are playing around in the courtyard. We see they are exploring some of the new snow for this season. There appears to be it looks like there is a winter storm moving through, and snowball fights happening. People making different snow figures out in the courtyard. But it is dark right now, and this is when sort of the castle seems to be the most alive. Lots of activity, lots of, shouting, giggles. We see ghosts, running back and forth with non-ghost companions.
All right. Well, who on earth do I ask? Someone seemed to have some idea of what was going on with me, but I guess look for whoever else has injuries, I suppose.
Igor says,
I think we should try to find the dwarf that helped you when you collapsed.
Okay, there was a dwarf. All right. What did they look like?
Igor helps Illyria try and find this dwarf, but the more we look, the more it seems like we are just getting ourselves into trouble. This castle is confusing from the inside. The occasional moments when we get our bearings are when we can find a window that either looks outside of the castle or looks down into the courtyard. This picture here is just sort of one narrow corner of the courtyard, because even the courtyard itself is not a square so much as an odd shape with snags all over it. We can't find that dwarf again. Instead, we find a group who are making their rounds through the castle. And as they pass, there is a group that consists of, there are orcs, there are humans, there are elves. All sorts of folks are represented within this group here. They're definitely students, and they don't seem to be from the upper class. But as they wander by, Illyria sniffs.
Wait. Okay, I don't know how, but I think they might have some answers for me.
As they make their way down the hallway here, they indeed are sort of like sniffing the air themselves. It's not hugely obvious, certainly not as obvious as it was for me, but they stop. Here in this long hallway, after we've been searching, we are down sort of in a deeper spot in this castle, and there are suits of armor along the walls. They move and jerk occasionally. They are not armed. They sort of like, they appear to be sort of feeling around. Occasionally one of them will grab a hold of one of the torches on the walls and sort of trying to pull it off the wall, and then fail, and then start to creak their way in the other direction. But this group that approaches, there is a young woman in a jacket. She has got some piercings, which are not super common, but she's got some piercings that seem to sort of like stay all along the left side of her face. Left nostril, left ear in a few places, left eyebrow, that kind of stuff. And they approach with a bit of an attitude.
All right. Well, a new one, huh? Nice to meet you. I'm sorry, a new student? Yes, both of us, we've just arrived. No. You're a new lycan. I can tell.
She takes another big inhale. And Illyria sort of... I think Illyria has known this was on its way. There are enough stories, and between all the weirdness that's happened, Illyria starts to understand, okay, this really did happen to me.
Yeah, you're, Wolf, as far as I can tell. Welcome to the club, I might say.
And looking around at this group, Illyria sort of takes another sniff, and I don't know. It is hard to pick up much else. I think the the suspicious looks that I give all of them are not doing much favor for me. And sort of like trying to match some of their sniffs. I'm definitely picking something up, but I can't quite tell what. This group sort of starts to like pace around the two of us, and Illyria sort of like looks at them suspiciously. This girl continues speaking.
Maybe you're not one of us just yet. You've got a lot to learn, don't you? Well, I don't know what phase you're in, but I certainly do look forward to finding out. It's going to be a rough couple of months for you, isn't it? Have you changed it all yet? Have you had your first one? Your first transformation? I don't think you have.
Another whiff, and a boy comes up and sort of like over her shoulder kind of whispers something to her, and she nods and says,
Yeah, I think so. I think you got about a week before the most exciting night of your life. First transformation. Good luck to you.
and the group wanders off. Interesting. So it looks like I have got a transformation coming my way. Let's, we'll see how true that is, but I think Illyria has learned some more about this condition.
Well, they seemed nice.
I don't know. I'm skeptical.
And Illyria sort of like squints over their shoulder as this group walks away. Lots of like laughing and looking back at the two of us. Meanwhile, a suit of armor wanders past, and hearing our voices from close by, the helmet sort of snaps in our direction. It takes a stumbling swing at us, misses, crashes to the ground, and then gets up and wanders off in another direction. This rusty armor screeching against itself all the way.
And the information is good information, right?
I suppose. You don't think they were just trying to scare me, do you? I've got a week until something happens. Oh, I know what's going to happen. We've heard enough stories. Igor, I don't know what I'm going to do. Do you think... surely they've got some sort of training for something like this? Somewhere... Maybe they can stop me from turning into... whatever I'm... It must be a wolf, right? It's going to be a wolf, isn't it? I hear they kill people. Up north where I'm from, we hear all sorts of things from the forests between the oxbows and the towers.
You're going to be fine. I am here for you.
Well, but I could... Well... All right.
And Illyria grins a little bit at a bit at this.
Yeah, I suppose if anyone were to be safe from me, if I'm going to turn into some sort of rabid wolf, it would be a ghost. And I'm sorry, I'm sure this has been difficult for you too. We haven't had a chance to talk about this, have we? You're a ghost. I'm so thankful you're not gone forever, but how do you feel?
Yes, whatever happens, I'm a ghost enough. I could perhaps I'll possess you.
And I think the two of us, we share a laugh here.
Do you think you can do that? I wonder if you could. Did you try before? I had a strange sense that you were there when I was unconscious, when I felt like I was dying down at the foot of the cliffs. I could feel you were there.
The two of us share this little moment here. Meanwhile, we are surrounded by students, people wandering this way and that, other ghosts, and others who seem to be perhaps vampires, and then others who appear as normal, but I think we've got a strong idea of what they might be. Igor says,
I was there, but not as much as I wish I could have been.
You were there plenty. I mean, you could have passed on completely, but you stayed, and I'm thankful for that. After you died, how did you die? You don't know, do you? Did you wake up? Did you see anything?
Let's make a little bit of a roll here to find out. Ooh, that's I mean, this is a wits roll, and you just knocked it out of the park. Hey, Igor, you do know a little bit about the night that you died. With a strong hit, you know, you woke up for bare moments before that chain tightened around your neck. But you saw the chain itself, and I think you were able to see what sort of was invisible to the two of us before. You saw that chain was covered in runes, and you know that those runes looked very... You can't read runes, but you know... I mean, you've only ever seen glowing runes etched into weapons twice, and it was on the same night.
So you think that they might have been related somehow? Do you think they found us after you stopped them? But why you and not me? I hate it. Ugh. This whole place makes me shiver. But I don't know if it's that I'm creeped out by these armor walking around.
And Illyria goes forward and just like kicks out the leg of another one of these suits of armor, and it falls again with a creak onto the floor.
I remember what you did to me earlier. You tried to bury me.
Igor says,
That could perhaps have been the hunters. I did jump from a tower on top of them.
Meanwhile, Illyria is just sort of like absentmindedly sort of like kicking bits of armor around the floor.
How do you think they would have found us? And also, who were they? I heard after you died, I went into town and I talked to old Yomir. He's you remember him, he's the one who owns the general store. And he said they were a scourge on this town. On Dongreed. He hates them. I don't really know why, but I was trying to buy supplies and he said that he wouldn't sell me anything if he knew that I was working with them. He called them something. What was it? Luca Brusca. Luca Brusca. That is what he called them. Well, I haven't seen hide or hair of them since. I hear that they're hiding somewhere west of Dongreed, which means that I guess they're somewhere between here and the town.
That makes Igor remember the key. And Illyria has been sort of carrying around all of our gear for a while, and Igor asking for it, Illyria lights up a little bit and says,
"Oh yes, I was able to get it from you. You still had it, which is strange to me. I guess that's not what they were after. I've got it here."
And Illyria, from the sort of knapsack that they wear, it's just a rough sort of burlap bag. hung with some twine over their shoulder, in which they keep this key as they start to pull it out, but also you can see sort of jangling around in there. You've a couple of beakers, some of Igor's most prized possessions.
Oh, I thought that must have been what they wanted.
It doesn't seem that way. So, whatever reason they shot at that shape that landed on the ruins, it must have been for something else. Unless they searched you and they just couldn't find it, but that doesn't seem likely. I didn't wake up at all.
I think if they weren't looking for the key, then perhaps they just wanted revenge for interrupting their kill, so to speak.
Their kill. They called themselves hunters, and so did old Vilmir. If they're hunters... well, I don't feel very safe. Do you feel safe? Now that you're dead, what happens to you next? What's the worst that can happen to you?
I think Illyria, sort of squints at you. And frankly, neither of us are quite sure. I don't think either of us have a real strong understanding of, what can happen. What's the worst that can happen to Igor now that he's a ghost?
I think the worst that could happen would be that you join me.
Well, we'll see how long that takes. It sounds like I've got some big thing coming up in a week, and... well, good luck to both of us. You know what, I think I would be more comfortable if I got my bearings a little better. Let me see if we can look around here.
And this is where I think, let's go ahead and undertake a journey. Now, undertaking a journey, we are going to be using some of these concepts a little differently than we otherwise would. We're going to undertake this journey to kind of explore this place here, and to at least get our bearings through the castle. The thing that I would like to try is to use, instead of supply, we're going to call this favor. I'm going to use the exact same tracker because we've got a spot for it on the sheet, but we are going to start with, kind of middle and favor. I'm going to say we're going to start with 3 favor. Favor is sort of how well esteemed are we? How well regarded are we by the other people here? Basically, if we run out of favor, that means we've caused sort of too much trouble, and it may be harder for us to sort of explore freely. All right, let's take a look around, shall we? I think we head up to a tower. We sort of make our way up and try to make our way around to a place where we can get a better vantage point on the castle here. It is night. There is torchlight to illuminate, and some puddles of light down in the forest as well. Here we can see, if we look out the front, we can see that there is the River Argent to the south. It runs east to west, down south of the castle. Basically, it's the lower edge of our map. Let's see how well we do exploring this castle here. I think the trouble that we end up getting into here is we are running along, and there is a sudden noise. We are running along some of these upper corridors here, and we run past some rooms that we find slightly familiar. We run past the sort of half caved in room with the portraits in it. All the portraits seem to be back where they belong. We don't see any of them trying to escape, except one of them that was full before is now totally empty, which sends a shiver down our spines. And we continue to run along. But as we sort of run along these hallways, lit by torchlight and with the occasional view out the window, we start to get our bearings here, and we can sort of see roughly the 2 halves of the castle. To the west, there is half the castle that is dedicated to advanced studies, and it is divided from the sort of our section of the castle by Bailey's Tower. Now, Bailey's Tower is one of the least dilapidated towers in the whole castle, and one of 3 major towers here on the grounds. There is, of course, Bailey's Tower, which separates the west half of the castle and the east half. We are hanging out in the east half. But also the other two towers that are both on, the other two major towers, I should say, that are both on that eastern half of the castle. One of them is the one that we came in through, Skullaport Tower. Skullaport Tower is quite dilapidated, and yet not so dilapidated as the tallest and most ruined of all the towers, which is, I think we're able to ask some folks and get a name for it. Anzian Tower. So the three towers, we've got Bailey's Tower, Anzian Tower, and Skullaport Tower. And Skullaport Tower is the one through which we entered. And not only that, but I think we learn a little bit about entering and leaving the castle. We begin to explore over in that direction, and we start to try and pass through Bailey's Tower when we are stopped by some upperclassmen. They seem to be sort of standing guard, and one of them says, "Yes, on the first day is always someone who does not understand that you need to stay in your place. You turn around, go back from where you came." This is in the room with the murder hole. You sort of look straight up above this student. He has got a large hat on, covering up what appears to be quite a bit of hair, almost an afro, it seems. Or something sort of like that, a very large formation of hair here. A large formation of hair? What a strange way to put that. He's got a lot of hair, and he says, "You do not pass this door right here." It's the door immediately beneath the murder hole. I think Illyria says, "Well, then how are we supposed to leave the castle?" You don't leave the castle. You're going to stay here where it is safe. Trust me, it is better than it is out there. You don't go back this way, and especially do not try to go back down the hallway that you tried on your way in. Skullaport Tower is the only safe way in and out of the castle, but you have to pass through the entry hall. And I think you may have noticed on your way in, you don't want to spend very much time in the entry hall. The entry hall is the one, I think, the two of us have our bearings well enough at this point. We know the entry hall is the one that had all of those traps in it, the very first hall that we entered. So it seems like the way through the way into the castle is through the ruined tower, Skullaport Tower, and then into the Hall of Traps.
I think we should be all right here.
Yeah, well, you're going to have to be all right here because you're not going anywhere else.
Well, then, hold on. What about the front gate?
This student cracks a big, wide smile. You can see his teeth are he's got big teeth on this guy. Big front teeth. Not a vampire. Just big, sort of big, bucky sort of teeth. And he gives a big, loud laugh and says, "Oh, you do not want to go through the front gates. They shut it as a favor to you, so you wouldn't get confused and run in the worst possible way that you could try to enter the castle." I think Illyria and Igor start to wander off a little bit. We've made a little bit of progress toward exploring the castle. And Illyria has begun to try and find some things out about their condition. Igor / chat, what is it that y'all would like to explore the most? We find our way up onto one of the higher floors of the west wing of the keep, which it seems like the sort of the castle itself, this sort of section that we are cordoned off to. It seems like we have a decent view of both our section of the castle, the younger class of the castle, but also the advanced studies wing, and we can get a view of not quite the whole sort of campus here, but quite a bit of it. And yes, the place where Illyria rested, we were given the opportunity to leave some things there, but I think just the way that the two of us have been traveling, Illyria did not feel comfortable doing that. You know, it's been months of, if we leave something someplace, it's not going to be there when we come back, so I don't think Illyria left anything there, but yeah, that is... I think Igor was told, make yourself at home here. You got that information from the ghost girl, there are classes here. There are classes and you can sort of study quite a few things. Time to figure out how. which I think is an excellent pursuit. Illyria seems more sort of concerned about like getting their bearings on the place. They're constantly trying to like look around, open doors, and find out what's behind them. They really want to sort of get their bearings on the castle's layout, which is really tough to do. But they're giving it a shot. This seems like a gather information sort of thing, so we're gonna have you go ahead and roll plus wits here. You don't quite share a bond with that ghost, but you know someone who you can ask. So we try to track her down again. Ooh, you got a win and double ones, which means on a hit with double challenge dice, that means that you get a hit with a very positive twist. Let's talk about classes then. You quickly go and find the that ghost that you met earlier, and she is frankly delighted that you have found her so quickly. She gives lots of information as Illyria is sort of like not paying a ton of attention to it. It's going to be on you to absorb this. Of course, you as chat, I will remind you of plenty, but it's on Igor to absorb this as opposed to Illyria, because Illyria is sort of like putting a finger in their mouth and holding it up to the wind and stuff, looking up at stars, just trying to like get their bearings, and has started to like, I think has picked up like a loose tile off the floor and is scratching it with another piece of stone, trying to make a really rough sketch of this castle. But Igor is able to have a lengthy conversation. Let me know if you want to ask anything else. This is, as I mentioned before, this is Terua. Terua is a researcher, an upper class student, and a ghost. And they are able to give you quite a bit of. She's able to give you quite a bit of information here. The classes are going to. There are sort of like there are gen eds after a fashion. There are some classes that are just very practical. Part of the mission here, as Terua explains it, is to get a genuine education. It is an opportunity for people who they are going to be confronted with many difficulties in life because of what they are now, whether they are ghost, vampire, lycan, what have you. You've even seen some odd ones, like you've seen a few sets of fey-looking wings on one or two students. So it appears to be not just Duskin here, but definitely predominantly Duskin here at the school. But because of all these challenges, this school has been set up to give sufficient opportunities that they can students can make their own way in the world differently. And the classes that you're going to have access to include a lot of very basic ones, starting with being able to read is actually considered somewhat advanced, but you're going to be taught some of these things like that. And then some of the sort of more advanced classes that are going to be available to you before reaching the advanced studies. Some of the more advanced classes will include trades, things like smithing, carpentry, that sort of thing. Lots of that. Definitely multiple languages are available. And basically sort of different courses to reflect like different possible areas of study. Now you can just sort of like go very general and do some blacksmithing, and then also get really into historical languages, and then also get really into performance. But mostly you are going to have an opportunity to sort of learn some basics, and then choose kind of a course to progress on, and then really sort of like dig into that. So the people who get into alchemy, they're probably going to study alchemy pretty thoroughly and not worry so much about other trades, not worry too much about reading, learning additional languages, that sort of thing. So you'll sort of like over time you will pick a track, but Terua explains that is not something that is going to be required of us. That decision is not required of us early on. That will come later. But if you've got an interest in certain things, Terua actually has a little sort of notebook essentially and a quill, and takes down some information about the things that you're interested in, which means, Igor, I want to hear what you're interested in. And I think you are probably able to divert Illyria's attention enough as well to to sort of like find out what they're thinking. I think Illyria is most curious about the trades, and then also expeditioneering. Trades and expeditioneering, I think, are the ones that attract Illyria most. They've done a bit of traveling up to this point, but they've only really come from their hometown up in the Oxbends down to here. They've never really traveled through the towers. They've never ever been to the towers. They've only ever seen it from a distance, from high places on clear days here in Dawngreet. And although we're not technically in the town of Dawngreet anymore. But it sounds like alchemy and some history. So kind of scholarly pursuits for Igor. But yeah, Illyria wants to check out expeditioneering, which is sort of the study of how to best establish a new territory and settle it. It is sort of like survival skills, that kind of stuff. Some of it involves combat. But yeah, alchemy, history. Basically, it is the course of sort of narrowing things. And so you pick sort of at the very early stages, you're just going to be deciding sort of, are you going to try to be an adept, someone who puts together some skills? Are you going to try and be a mage of some sort? Or are you going to try and shoot for more of a martial life? And Deathrave says how this started, how we became what we are, what we can do in return, in terms of history. Jem says that, and then Deathrave says, I think alchemy and studying runes, like what the hunters had, fantastic. These are things which are going to sort of like come over time. But I am curious, actually. Does Igor ask specifically about runes, like the runes that you saw? Do you express that to Tarua, or are you going to try and sort of like keep that secret? What's your take on that? What's your plan there? Interesting. So Igor actually explains a little bit about the runes that he was able to see in this moment just before his death, and at the mention of this, Tarua looks shocked. Her ghostly eyes go kind of wide, and she says,
You're sure that you saw runes of this nature close to the castle here?
Yes. I'm curious about them. What are they used for? What are they?
They are... They could be quite a few things, but...
And I think I'm going to give you a chance to roll for this one. Ooh, that's no good. You are trying to sort of like perceive what the deal is here, but she is entirely... She does not give much away. And she sort of gives us a bit of a smile and says, I don't think they are something you should consider yourself too deeply with. They will come in the course of your studies, of course. Don't worry. Everything's going to be all right. And she gets up and rushes away.
Well, I don't know about you, but if you ask me, that seems like a strange thing to say about something that isn't genuinely worrisome. That was odd, right? I mean, these runes, clearly they were something important. All of those hunters, the Lukabruska, all of them had it. All of them did. And it was on their weapons. Whatever it is, it's meant to hurt somehow. You don't think it's made to create ghosts? Is that what they're there for?
It's odd. She seemed almost scared, right?
Oh, she certainly seems scared. I think so. I can't tell why, but she doesn't like that they were that close to the castle. She said that, close to the castle. I don't know what we ran into out there, Igor, but... we thought life was complicated back when we were hunting for food in abandoned packs. Looks like life has gotten even more complicated, huh?
It seems perhaps it is part of some deeper magic.
Deeper magic. That reminds me, you said that you were going to try and take some classes. I'm not surprised you're going for some of the brainy ones. It sounds like they do have options for alchemy here. Are you going to try and give it a shot? I think I might accompany you, I suppose, but I don't think I can keep up with all that. No, I want to explore a bit. I want to see a bit more of the world, and I think maybe the best way to do that is to learn about it here. They said expeditioneering was an option. I'm all right. I'm okay with a spear. I can do a bit of learning about. Maybe they can expand some of my herbalism. It's worth a shot, right? It's worth a try. That reminds me.
And Illyria takes out the broken spear. Really, it's just the spearhead anymore. The haft of the spear is no longer with us, as it were. And they hold on to this spearhead. It is sort of long and narrow with a little barb at the back. Originally crafted for fishing, certainly back from their hometown. And Illyria just holds on to this for a second and says,
I need to fix this spear. We were pretty safe for a while, but you and I have encountered more danger in the last week than I think I ever have before in my life. I want to be able to defend myself if I need to, so I want to try and fix this spear. I think it'll be handy. Perhaps they can teach me to use it during my classes. You're going to try for, what, alchemy?
I think alchemy and history, and I don't know if runes itself is a course, but I might try something in magic.
You're going to try something in magic? Have you ever had any sort of, I don't know, any experience? Do you have any magic?
Well, it can be learned.
I suppose it can be learned. I don't have the patience for it. All right. Let's see what sort of trouble we can get ourselves into.
Yeah, so basically we have talked to Rua about the things that we might want to pursue. And we're going to have a chance to like look around a little bit. I think Illyria sort of like, we get back to this place that is considered our bunks, and Illyria says, they're kind of like looking around here, looking at other students. We see that student with the gold armband and the golden eyes walk by and claim a bunk here.
I don't love the idea of leaving our things here. Other people are, but I don't know. I think I want to get out of the castle for a little while. Do you think they'll let us out? Do you think we can make our way out there? I need something that I can use as a spear shaft. We can try, right? Are we prisoners? Guess there's only one way to find out.
All right. Let's undertake a journey here.
Igor, do you want to come with me? Or are you going to do some other explorations here?
Maybe you can use some of the torches on the wall and make a spear shaft.
I could try it. No.
Illyria sort of like feels one, and A, it's sort of bolted into the wall, and B, it's sort of it appears to be dried bark that is sort of wrapped around itself, not like a stick of anything. So it's
too short and it's too lightweight. It needs something that, if I need to defend myself with it, it needs to be able to take some solid hits. I don't think this is going to do it.
Okay. Plus, I think Illyria is just like curious about being able to get outside. Let's find out how we do here. Igor accompanies Illyria, and the two of them make their way out into the other parts of the castle. It is a quiet little journey. With Igor's help, Illyria is able to get past these upperclassmen guarding the door out into the rest of the castle here in Bailey's Tower. And as we proceed outside, we find ourselves leaving that little ruined tower that we entered the castle through. We make our way outside, and we find that we're not the only ones out here. We see some of the upperclassmen are sort of roaming around here in the snow out on these parade grounds, this large clearing that sort of occupies 1/3 of the hill here. 1/3 is occupied by the castle. Slightly lower than that are these parade grounds, and then slightly lower than that is the arena, the ruins of the arena there. But looking out down the hill, there is some light. There appears to be perhaps a small village, but there's a little road that, as you can see here on the map, leads from the castle down into this forest here without fully going off of the steep hills slash cliffs that separate this sort of castle grounds from the lower forest wherein we were attacked by werewolves. Basically, that lower forest is it's just a tiny little part of an enormous forest, but it lies between the castle and Dawngreet. But up here on the hilltop, we find that the grounds are this sort of long dagger-shaped forest. And up near the point is furthest away from the castle. The sort of wider end of this dagger shape is where the castle sits. And then there's this long sort of stretch of forest. And the outer edge of it is defined by this river. The river, we've heard it called the Argent. It runs underneath the drawbridge here and then runs down far toward the point of this dagger-shaped grounds, and then seemingly comes back around. It sort of turns its way back. The two grounds are at angles to one another, and basically it runs east to west in front of the castle, and then falls on a waterfall, and then west to east down below the castle. So all of this will become much more clear if you head in and check out the maps in the Lore Keeper's Tome using the lore command in chat. But we make our way out into the forest, and Illyria sort of, I think Igor can pick up, there's definitely some excitement here. Illyria and Igor trek into the forest.
All right. I want to get back pretty quickly, but it's good to know. It's good to have our bearings here. Good to know what surrounds the castle. If we ever decide we don't want to stay, and I've got some doubts after meeting Orif Barsarand, but if we ever decide we don't want to stay, this is going to be probably where we end up, so let's see what we can do. I got to find a good stick for this, like a sapling or something would be helpful.
The two of us quietly explore the dark forest. It is very quiet out here, especially with the snow falling as it is, and although both of us are tired, we're starting to become accustomed to this nighttime sort of schedule here. The sun is still totally gone, but we have been exploring for most of the night, and it is starting to go from black to just the deepest purple. As we hunt through the forest here, Igor reminds Illyria of something that they've forgotten.
That thing that you keep hidden in the box. Do you need to move it now? Now that we're here?
Illyria, you can't really see them, but they stop for a moment here in the darkness, and then continue to search. Illyria says,
I don't know if it's wise to collect it, but I certainly, if it gets taken, I don't know how I'll ever find it. And then if we ever do come across the wild stallions again, I don't want to be, well, in debt to them like that. We should go collect it, shouldn't we? We just got here. All right. Okay. I think let's... What are the odds we're going to be able to sneak out of the castle again? It seems like they're not necessarily the biggest fans of it. We're not too far from Dawngreed, but we shouldn't try it tonight, should we? You said the sunlight doesn't agree with you. Should we try it tonight, or wait? I think the sun is starting to come up. We're going to have to be very, very fast. Or maybe we wait and try for it another day. We can try tomorrow night. We'll try to sneak out again.
meanwhile, Illyria is going to try and put together a shaft of a spear here. In the pitch darkness, Illyria and Igor suddenly hear snapping twigs. And in that same moment, as we are frozen here in the forest, near this strange ruin of a staircase, we suddenly hear thundering hoof steps. These hoof steps thunder into the forest, and suddenly we are surrounded by charging boars from the castle, razorback boars charging into the forest, and the two of us jump up onto these ruins to avoid being absolutely run through by massive tusks. We are surrounded, and that is where we are going to end our session today. Everyone, thank you so very much for joining me. Sandra is wondering, I wonder if those boars are trained by the school or if they are wild. Well, here's a question for you. Are they just boars at all? Interesting. Deathrave says, ooh, next week starts with some action. Fun. Yes, indeed. Next week is going to start with some action. And then, as I mentioned, we're going to get y'all to class. We're going to get y'all to class. We're going to meet some professors, certainly. We're going to meet some beaks. But even more than that, we're going to be doing some very practical stuff involving this. So it is going to be an adventure regardless. You are going to be spending some time with alchemy. And you are going to sort of like poke your head in. You've got a little bit of ways to go here before you are fully doing like a study of your own of history. Because I think you, Igor, like just about everyone else your age, except for the children of the very, very wealthy, you do not know how to read yet. We are going to make our way in that direction. I think both of us are going to end up learning how to read here. But you are probably going to learn how to write as well. And Illyria probably is going to start to learn about bushcraft and survival and that sort of stuff. So, everyone, I hope you're excited for next week. Perhaps some werebores in our future. We're going to learn a little bit more about the lycans, I think, next week. But yeah, everyone go ahead and please do check out the Lore Keeper's Tome. That is where you can find the character sheets. I suppose I will put the Towers map in there as well. And let me go ahead and put in... I don't think I've got a larger picture of this. We need a map of Dawngreet, certainly. Oh, it's filling up with maps. This is going to be delightful. Okay. Deathrave says, crosses fingers that Pinelli is in one of our classes. You can absolutely bet that Pinelli is going to be in at least some of your sort of Ghost foundational classes. You are going to be having... Let's see. So, yeah, who are some of the folks that we met today? So we met Pinelli. We have met Terua. Among some others, but basically, yes, you are going to be taking some like Ghost foundational classes just to learn about like how to keep yourself, how to learn about what you even are, because as ghosts, like Sandra says, we're already dead, so the stakes don't feel that high. Well, we shall find out. We'll find out. Can Duskin harm other Duskin in ways that mortals might not be able to? Interesting. Interesting. An interesting thought. Oh boy, where are my documents at? Where are my documents? Perfect. Okay. The Campaign 2 folder in the Lore Keeper's Tome is officially much more full than it was 3 hours ago. So go ahead and check that out. You can use the lore command or the tome command, and that will take you to the Lore Keeper's Tome. And then, of course, use the Recitus command for the wiki, which means I think it is now officially time. I'm going to need to start updating the wiki again to reflect some of the things that we're currently doing. The places that y'all are exploring, the things that we know about the castle, that sort of stuff. Absolutely worth doing. Now, y'all are going to be, like I said, doing some classes, but as I mentioned before, please don't forget to let me know about vows that you want to take, because vows, although it's sort of like setting your own quests, it's going to be super important to this series overall. If y'all don't really lean into this, then I will sort of do what I can to sort of take in what I feel like is the most interesting stuff to you and turn that into vows. But if you've got something specific where you're like, I want to make this is one of my missions. I think Igor is really focused on this. Definitely let me know and I will get this in there as a vow, and then you can earn XP for it and progress as a character. Let me see if there's anything that we have not gone ahead and explored yet. Any vows that we need to make good on here. We made quite a few today, so it's very possible that we just need more time with them. But let's review our vows, as I think would be a good pursuit at the top of every session, wouldn't it? Top of session, review vows. Yeah, Sandra, I'll go take a look. Deathrave says, do I post ideas for vows in the Discord? Yes, that is the spot to do it. Everyone who has joined us today, if you are curious, you can go ahead and use the links command. You can find these links in various places, but basically, linktree/sidecar stories, linktr.ee/sidecar stories. That is the one to share, and that's the one to follow, and you can find the discussion of this over in Discord. We've got a general RPG chat, but the one you're looking for is the Realms of Recitus chat over in Discord. The Realms of Recitus chat is going to be where we do all of our discussion over like what it is Igor wants to do, and Deathrave, yes indeed, that is the perfect spot for potential vows that you think would be appropriate for Igor. Absolutely. Jem says, I feel like you keep asking me what kind of nun I want to be with the vows thing. Yeah, it is kind of a funny title, but yeah, we're going to review our vows right now, and then we're going to start doing this at the top of every session, I think. So right now, Illyria's vows are return to Brackwater, ready to settle down, and you know what? I think as of having my best friend die for a bit, as of all the hardships that I endured on the way here, I think I'm going to try and I think I'm going to see what I can do toward this goal. I think this is going to be a very long-term goal. As a matter of fact, it might be my most difficult goal. or I may abandon it. But I think let me see how I do on this one. See, there's some rolling to be done even here. Hey, Deathrave, thank you so very much for joining me, and I hope you have a good week. Let's see about the let's see, reach a milestone. Oh, that's right. If I reach a milestone, I do not. It's not quite like undertaking a journey, which I think I might have done wrong for some of this other stuff. That's okay. But yeah, I think I've reached a milestone there. So that is going to be 1/4 of a tick, or one quarter of a mark out of 10 marks. The Wild Stallions want me to bring something south for them. Have I made any progress on that? I mean, maybe one. I guess I'll call that one progress because we got it to this town here. Discover the truth of the underbrush. I think, so I did make a little bit of progress on that, but I've already marked it. Find out about my condition. I've marked that as well. Just sort of find out about like the very basics of what I am, what my deal is. Maybe we'll find out more here later. And then pursue expeditioneering. Blah, 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 blah. Good grief. Yeah, we will find out more about that in a moment. Next, Igor. I think all of the ones that I have made progress on, I have marked progress on. But Case the Crossroads Town before the Wild Stallions return, I think you've done a pretty good job of that. But we already addressed that one. So we're going to have to do more if we want to... unless y'all are thinking you want to try and resolve that one now. Basically, I rolled 2 challenge dice, and we compare the 6 progress that you've got now against those challenge dice. And if you come between them, that's a weak hit. If they're both lower than 6, that's a strong hit. If they're both higher than 6, that's a weak hit. Or excuse me, that's a miss. Let's see. You want to avenge your own death, and I think you've made progress on this. I think this is a really tough one. So you are going to mark, let's see, 1, 2, you're going to mark 2 ticks toward avenging your own death, but the memory that these runes were like on the weapon, I think that counts as progress. Make a good impression on Pinelli. I think you were able to meet Pinelli, but I think you were not able to make much of a good impression on her yet. You've still got plenty of time to do so. You want to pursue academics, which, frankly, I mean, your strong hit has got to count for something. So I'm going to give you one mark in that as well. And then you want to learn about the history of the Duskin, which I think is going to be, you want to get like a shallow history, but I don't think you've made any progress toward that. So there you go. Once we get to, I'll start to ask you all sort of at the end of sessions, I think. But at the start and the end of sessions, we'll sort of review these, and then at the end of sessions, I will ask if y'all want to try to resolve that vow, which I think, frankly, the highest vow that any of us have, my highest vow is finding out about my condition. That's only a 3, but for you, casing the Crossroads Town is at a 6 out of 10. You can choose to try and resolve that vow at any point, but basically, for a normal roll, I roll a d6 and 2d10. And I want the d6 to be sort of the highest one in there. In this one, I don't roll the d6, I just roll the 2d10, and you want the tracker to be the highest one in there. So as I mentioned, you're at 6 out of 10. If you're up at a 10, it pretty much guarantees you're gonna do well. At a 6, you've got a decent chance, but it's also very possible that, these two could roll super high. These are the challenge dice. So everyone, really cool system. I am starting to sort of get my head around it better. It is not quite as freeform as some of the other ones that I've played, but for that reason, y'all should feel pretty good if you want to go in and try to play this game yourself solo. And I would ask that you please let me know if you do, because that would be super exciting. If y'all take your own adventures in the realms of Residus, I would love to hear about them. I would even start a new channel just exclusively for like newsletters style, like updates on what your adventures are in the realms of Residus. So y'all, thank you so much for joining me today. It has been absolutely grand. I love y'all. Thank you very much for playing Igor. And everyone, thank you for exploring Castle Vesperale with me. I hope you're ready for next week when we start to get into our classes. And I hope you have a fantastic day. Y'all, I will see you tomorrow. And let's head on over. That's it for me. We're going to go over and hang out with Chaotic Darby. Let's raid on over. I will see you folks later. Ra-ta-ta-ta. Everyone hop in. We're going for a raid. Everyone, I hope you have a fantastic week. I will see you tomorrow or next week. Adios.